The roar of Harleys echoed through the quiet neighborhood, engines humming softly as a group of Hell's Angels polished their bikes outside a small, sunlit park. The afternoon was warm, the kind of day when nothing seemed out of place, until a small voice shattered the calm. "He's coming! He's coming!" 70 bikers froze instantly, heads snapping toward the sound. A little girl, no more than 6, ran toward them, tears streaking her dirt-smudged face, arms flailing as she gasped for breath. Her tiny shoes pounded the pavement, and her voice trembled with urgency and fear. Hawk was the first to react, dropping to his knees in front of her. "Hey, slow down. What's happening? Who's coming?" The girl sobbed, clutching her stuffed rabbit to her chest. He said he'd take me. I don't want to go. Please, please help me." Ryder's jaw tightened, scanning the streets instinctively. "We need to move. This isn't a joke, someone's scared and we need to act fast." Hawk extended a leather-gloved hand. "Come here. You're safe now. Nobody's touching you. Not today." The girl flung herself into his arms, shaking with terror. I didn't know who else to run to. He hurt my brother last week, and now he's after me." Jace's eyes darkened as he looked down the street. "That's it. That's our cue. We're not waiting for authorities. We're taking action. And we're going to make sure he regrets ever threatening a kid." The little girl whimpered, hiding her face against Hawk's chest. The bikers formed a protective semicircle around them, engines idling like a heartbeat of warning. Their presence was immediate, imposing, yet purposeful. This was no longer about bikes or reputation. It was about loyalty, moral duty, and protecting the vulnerable. Hawk looked at the girl, voice steady and reassuring. "You did the right thing by running here. Courage isn't about fighting. It's about acting when danger comes. You acted, and now we're going to handle the rest." Ryder checked the surrounding streets, eyes narrowing. "We move together, fast and precise. He won't see us coming, but he will feel the consequences of his actions. No kid deserves this. Not today." The little girl's sobs slowed as she realized she was no longer alone. 70 bikers, experienced in life's toughest battles, stood ready, not to intimidate, but to protect. And in that moment, she understood she had found an unbreakable shield of loyalty and courage. Hawk whispered softly, "Stay close. Watch and learn. Courage can be small, but it echoes loudly when it matters most." The neighborhood, once peaceful, was now the stage for a storm of moral authority, loyalty, and justice. And at its center was a little girl whose bravery had summoned it all. Hawk led the little girl behind the protective circle of bikers, her tiny hands clutching the edges of his leather jacket. Her breaths came in quick, uneven gasps, and her eyes darted nervously down the street. She hadn't imagined the fear. She could feel it radiating from the man who had been chasing her. Ryder signaled to Jace and Micah to fan out, checking windows, alleys, and side streets. "Keep your eyes open," he muttered. "This guy doesn't just intimidate kids, he plans ahead. That means he's dangerous." The little girl pointed shakily toward a rundown house at the end of the block. He lives there. I saw him there this morning, and he said if I told anyone, he'd come get me." Hawk nodded, kneeling to meet her eyes. "Good job. You gave us exactly what we need. Courage isn't about not being scared, it's about speaking up when it matters. And now we act." The bikers moved with precision. Engines off, they spread out tactically, forming a protective perimeter around the house while ensuring the girl stayed hidden behind Hawk and Ryder. Their presence wasn't about intimidation. It was strategy, loyalty, and moral strength in action. Micah whispered to Hawk, his inside, blinds drawn. "But I can see movement. His pacing, agitated." Ryder tightened his jaw. "No time to wait. We approach carefully, show presence, and give him a choice: leave the kid alone, or face consequences." The little girl shivered. He might have a bat, or a stick, or something else. Hawk placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "It's okay. That fear you feel? That's normal. But you acted. You spoke. And now 70 people have your back. You're safe. The bikers approached the front of the house in a coordinated formation. Their silhouettes were imposing but precise, every step deliberate. Ryder's voice cut through the tension. He needs to know, no threats, no intimidation. Not today. Not ever. Suddenly, the stepfather appeared at the doorway, red-faced and furious. Get away from my house. That's my business. Hawk stepped forward, voice calm but unwavering. This isn't about property. It's about safety. You've endangered a child. That stops now. Step aside. The little girl's eyes widened, a mix of fear and awe. She had run for help, and now she was seeing the power of loyalty, courage, and moral authority firsthand. Ryder moved to the side, ready if things escalated, but his expression was focused, controlled. You've had your chance to intimidate, to frighten, to threaten. You blew it. This ends now. The bikers formed an unbroken line, a wall of protection, as Hawk motioned to the little girl to stay behind. Courage is acting even when you're scared. She did that. Now it's our turn. The man froze, the weight of 70 bikers pressing down with moral authority he could not challenge. His threats had lost all power, fear had been met with action, loyalty, and courage. The little girl's sobs slowed as she realized she was truly safe, her bravery amplified by the unwavering support of those who had heard her plea. Hawk whispered softly, "You spoke up. You acted. That's courage. And courage, when combined with loyalty and moral strength, changes everything." The neighborhood, now quiet but tense with anticipation, waited as the bikers prepared to deliver a final, decisive lesson. No threat to the innocent would go unanswered. The stepfather stood rigid in the doorway, fists clenched, eyes flickering between anger and uncertainty. The bikers' presence was overwhelming, not in volume alone, but in moral weight. 70 sets of eyes, hardened by experience yet guided by justice, fixed on him like a storm about to break. Hawk stepped forward, voice calm, resonant, carrying authority that needed no threat. You've had your chance. You've intimidated, you've threatened, you've tried to instill fear in someone who had no power to fight back. That ends today. The little girl's small voice trembled but grew stronger. He hurt me before, and I don't want him to hurt anyone else. Ryder's jaw tightened. And you won't let him. Not alone. But you're not alone. We're here. And you, sir, are outnumbered and outmatched by morality. The man's face turned pale. He took a hesitant step forward, only to be met by Jace's firm stance, blocking any approach with the smallest gesture. It wasn't aggression, it was absolute authority. You've lost control the moment you chose fear over protection, Jace said quietly but sharply. We will not allow another threat. The authorities will take it from here, and you will answer for every wrong you've done. The little girl clutched her stuffed rabbit tighter, watching the interaction with wide eyes. For the first time, she saw power wielded with moral clarity rather than intimidation. She understood, strength wasn't measured by fists, threats, or size. It was measured by courage, loyalty, and the willingness to act for what was right. Hawk knelt to her level. You acted when it mattered. That's the most powerful thing anyone can do. Speaking up, asking for help, that's courage. And it changes outcomes. Micah stepped forward, placing a hand on the man's shoulder. Look at her. Look at what fear brought. You could have chosen protection, kindness, responsibility. You didn't. Now you face the consequences. And she's safe. That's what matters. The stepfather stumbled back, swallowing hard, realizing the enormity of his failure. 70 bikers, united by loyalty and moral strength, had dismantled his intimidation without a single strike thrown. The neighborhood watched in stunned silence, absorbing the lesson that courage and moral authority, not brute force, dictated justice. Hawk placed a reassuring hand on the girl's shoulder. Courage doesn't erase fear, but it transforms it into action. You acted. You spoke. You trusted the right people. And because of that, justice was done. The authorities arrived moments later, taking the man into custody. The bikers held the perimeter until it was certain he could do no further harm. Every movement was careful, deliberate, reinforcing that protection wasn't just a reaction. It was responsibility, vigilance, and moral clarity. The little girl's sobs had stopped. She breathed deeply, relief washing over her. She had faced danger, spoken up, and watched justice unfold, not through violence, but through courage, loyalty, and moral strength. Hawk glanced at her, pride shining in his eyes. Today, you saw the difference between fear and courage. You learned that speaking up can protect not just yourself, but everyone around you. That's power. The neighborhood, once tense and uncertain, now felt the calm weight of safety, respect, and protection. And at its center, a small girl had learned the transformative power of moral courage. The little girl sat on the curb beside Hawk, her knees pulled to her chest, stuffed rabbit clutched tightly. The sun glinted off the chrome of parked Harleys, casting warm reflections across the street. The neighborhood, once quiet and uneasy, now felt alive with tension relieved, a fragile trust beginning to form. Hawk spoke softly, voice steady but comforting. You did exactly what you needed to do. Courage isn't about being fearless. It's about acting even when you are. You ran, you spoke up, and that's why you're safe. The girl nodded, tears still clinging to her cheeks, but relief replacing the raw fear. I didn't think anyone would listen. I didn't know it could matter. Ryder knelt beside her, glancing at the surrounding neighborhood. You did more than matter. You changed the outcome. Because of you, we stopped a threat before it could harm anyone else. That's bravery, one small voice creating a big difference. The bikers, now more relaxed but alert, began interacting with neighbors. They checked on families, reassured parents, and offered guidance on how to notice warning signs, stay vigilant, and trust their instincts. Their presence was both protective and educational, showing that loyalty, moral responsibility, and courage extended beyond confrontation into everyday life. A neighbor, an elderly woman peeking from her window, whispered to another, "I've never seen anything like this." They didn't yell, didn't fight, they just made it clear that no one would harm the children here. It's comforting. Hawk smiled faintly, listening. Courage and loyalty aren't just about strength. They're about accountability. Protection isn't just physical, it's moral. That's why we're here. The little girl looked up at him, eyes wide. Can I help? I don't want anyone else to be scared. Hawk's eyes softened. You already did. By speaking up, you taught everyone around you the value of vigilance and courage. You don't need a bike or leather to protect someone, you just need the bravery to act and the loyalty to care. The bikers remained a presence, a subtle reassurance across the block. Parents held their children closer, neighbors exchanged glances, and the little girl felt a warmth she hadn't known before. Safety wasn't just about the absence of threat, it was about trust, moral strength, and courage working together. Ryder placed a hand on her shoulder. Remember this day. Courage starts small. Speaking up saves lives. Loyalty protects, and moral responsibility guides action. You saw it, you lived it, and now you carry it with you. The girl's trembling eased, replaced by a quiet determination. She had faced fear, acted with courage, and witnessed the transformative power of moral strength and loyalty. The neighborhood, once tense, now felt the beginnings of safety that would last, because one small voice had dared to speak, and 70 bikers had dared to protect. The little girl walked beside Hawk as the bikers slowly made their way through the neighborhood. Each step, each glance, was purposeful, showing the residents that safety wasn't a fleeting promise, but a constant presence backed by moral strength and vigilance. Ryder addressed the small group of parents gathered near the park. Today, courage came from a little girl who refused to stay silent. That courage gave us the chance to act. Now it's time for everyone to see that vigilance, responsibility, and moral action keep a neighborhood safe. The girl's eyes widened as she realized she was witnessing the ripple effect of her bravery. She hadn't just protected herself, she had inspired the adults around her, reminding them that fear could be challenged and courage could thrive even in small bodies. Jace knelt beside her, voice firm but encouraging. You've already done more than most people ever do. You acted, and that action created safety for everyone. Courage isn't about fighting, it's about knowing when to act and who to trust. You chose wisely. The bikers began interacting with neighbors, giving advice on watching for signs of danger, checking in on each other, and standing together as a community. Their presence reinforced a powerful message: loyalty and moral responsibility are stronger than fear, and protection is most effective when shared. The little girl smiled faintly, her tears replaced by a spark of pride. I want to help too. I want to make people feel safe like you did for me. Hawk placed a hand on her shoulder. You already did. Courage is contagious. Speaking up inspires others to act. By trusting us, by running here, by believing in yourself, you've empowered everyone around you. Ryder scanned the streets, noting the subtle signs of reassurance. Children playing cautiously under watchful eyes, neighbors exchanging nods and smiles, and a sense of calm settling over the block. Protection isn't just about confrontation, he said. It's about creating an environment where courage and moral action are respected and reinforced. The little girl nodded slowly, understanding for the first time that bravery wasn't measured by size or strength. It was measured by action, trust, and the willingness to act when it mattered most. Hawk looked down at her with a soft smile. Remember this day. You learned that speaking up can change outcomes. You saw how courage and loyalty protect not just you, but everyone around you. That's moral strength. And now, you carry it with you. The bikers mounted their Harleys, engines humming a soft, steady rhythm, a sign of presence, vigilance, and unwavering loyalty. The little girl watched them ride away, her chest filled with a sense of empowerment and understanding. She had faced fear, acted bravely, and witnessed the transformative power of courage, loyalty, and moral responsibility in action. The neighborhood had been strengthened, the community reminded of its collective duty to protect, and one small girl had become the spark for lasting courage. The bikers regrouped at the corner of the neighborhood, engines idling softly, their presence both a deterrent and a reassurance. Hawk knelt beside the little girl, who now walked with steadier steps, her tears replaced by a cautious sense of strength. You see, Hawk said gently, courage doesn't end when danger disappears. It lives in every action you take afterward, in every time you protect yourself and others. Ryder surveyed the block, making sure all families had been reassured, that doors were locked, neighbors checked in, and children accompanied by adults. Safety isn't temporary, he said. It's about vigilance, consistency, and moral action. You've already done your part by speaking up. Now everyone here has seen how courage can create lasting protection. The little girl glanced around the neighborhood, noticing the subtle changes, the way parents held their children a little closer, the way neighbors nodded at each other, the quiet respect that lingered in the air. I feel safe, she whispered. Hawk smiled. That feeling isn't just luck. It's courage, loyalty, and responsibility working together. You helped make it real. And it's going to stay that way as long as you remember what you learned today. Jace spoke to the remaining adults, voice low and firm. Remember what you saw. Courage is small, but powerful. Trust in the right people. Watch out for each other. And if fear ever comes back, act, not alone, but together. That's how communities survive and thrive. The bikers formed a protective line as the authorities escorted the stepfather further away, ensuring he could never return to intimidate or harm anyone. Every movement reinforced moral authority, accountability, and the power of decisive action guided by ethics rather than anger. The little girl's eyes sparkled with understanding. I want to help people like you did, even if I'm small. Hawk placed a hand on her shoulder. You will. Courage isn't about size. It's about knowing when to act, trusting the right people, and protecting the innocent. Today you saw it, lived it, and now it's part of you. The bikers mounted their Harleys, engines vibrating softly as they rolled down the street. Their presence lingered long after they had gone, the symbol of unwavering loyalty, moral strength, and protection etched into the neighborhood's consciousness. The little girl watched them disappear, heart lighter, chest filled with purpose. She had witnessed courage transform fear into safety, and she had learned that moral strength, when combined with loyalty and decisive action, could create a lasting shield over those who needed it most. The neighborhood exhaled collectively, a subtle but profound reassurance settling over every house and street corner. The neighborhood had regained its quiet, a calm that felt earned rather than forced. The little girl sat on the curb, stuffed rabbit in her lap, chest rising and falling with steady breaths. She no longer trembled with fear, her courage had carried her through, and the biker's presence had cemented her safety. Hawk crouched beside her, voice gentle but firm. "Today you did something remarkable. Courage isn't about being fearless, it's about acting when you are afraid. You spoke up, trusted the right people, and helped protect not just yourself, but everyone around you." Ryder nodded from a few steps away, scanning the neighborhood. Most people stay silent in the face of danger. You acted. You made a difference. That's moral strength. That's loyalty. That's courage in action. The little girl's lips curled into a small, proud smile. I didn't know I could do it. But I wanted to help." Hawk placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "And that desire, that willingness, is what changes outcomes. Courage sparks action, and action inspires others. Today, you were the spark. Never forget it." The bikers had mounted their Harleys, engines humming softly as a symbol of presence and vigilance. As they rolled away, the neighborhood remained, subtly transformed. Doors felt safer, streets felt steadier, and the little girl knew she had a voice that could echo powerfully when it mattered most. She stood slowly, looking around at the neighborhood she had helped protect. A quiet sense of purpose settled within her. She had learned firsthand that courage, loyalty, and moral responsibility weren't abstract words. They were actions that created real, lasting safety. Courage is not about size, age, or strength. It is measured by action in the face of fear. Speaking up can protect the innocent and inspire those around you. Loyalty and moral responsibility create trust and lasting safety. Fear is natural, but bravery is choosing to act despite it. Even the smallest voice can spark change, protect lives, and leave a lasting impact. True moral strength lies in protecting the vulnerable and standing for what is right.